This is a 1985 Raleigh Grand Prix in black with all of the original components except for the saddle and the tires. The serial number is RD5 followed by a 5-digit sequential manufacturer number and decodes as follows. The R means the bike was made in Canada, D meaning the month the bike was made, and 5 would be the year, or in this case, 1985. 1985 would make sense, as all of the components also date from the mid-80s. For example, the front and rear derailleurs are both Suntour AR, and when you cross-reference at velobase.com, the Suntour AR derailleurs were made during the mid-80s. Velobase.com is an excellent reference database for researching vintage components, and I'll leave the link in the description. This Made in Canada Grand Prix certainly is not of the caliber of earlier Raleighs that were manufactured in England, but still a very commendable bike. This was probably due to the fact that in the early 80s, Raleigh was moving towards being a mass market producer of bicycles by expanding their production into countries like Canada. For example, Raleighs that were made in England commonly use Reynolds 531 tubing, which still competes today as some of the best bicycle tubing available. Whereas this Grand Prix was made using 20/30 high tensile steel tubing, which was of good quality, but not of the quality of Reynolds 531 tubing, and was probably used to reduce costs. Interestingly, as noted from the head badge, this Raleigh Grand Prix frame was made in Raleigh's Nottingham, England facility and then shipped to Canada for installation of the components. Also interesting was Raleigh's change in decals. The earlier Made in England bikes all looked like this. Whereas this Made in Canada Grand Prix used a script font. So a few other noteworthy bits on this bike. The shifters are Suntour Symmetric, which was a short-lived innovation from Suntour. When the rear derailleur lever was moved, a cam on the inside of the shifter body adjusted the trim on the front derailleur. The idea was the trim would provide optimal chain ring alignment and prevent overshifting. But there is much discussion if this was actually a benefit for the riders used to dialing in their own shifter position. The crankset is a Sugino GC with 42/52 tooth chain rings and 165mm crank arms, and combined with a Suntour 1428 cluster, meant this bike would climb well and fly on flat stretches. The frame size is 25 inches and would be suitable for a tall 6'3" to 6'6" rider. So final thoughts on this Raleigh Grand Prix. Although not considered a professional racing bike, this Made in Canada Grand Prix is still considered to be a classic and worthy of being brought back to its original condition.